Hello everybody, it's July 26, 2022. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin. Let's take a look at what I said on Thursday. I did a video early and this one is slightly late because I was on vacation. So on Thursday, I said, as expected, Bitcoin found a top in that 23 to 25-ish area that I had laid out. And at the time, the bears had no immediate setup indicating a new low. Right, so there's no real bearish path here that is extremely worrying as of Thursday. And then there were two possibilities. I was willing to give the benefit of the doubt to the bulls if they could hold it above 22.2. Maybe they could take an impulsive path with that, but it was the less likely option, and that has now been eradicated. Obviously, we've gone below 22.2. So we are now firmly in this path as the most likely to me, which is a diagonal path. Now there's a couple different options here that we do need to look at. Diagonals are choppy and hard to hard to figure out like where exactly they're going to go. It's more of just a general idea. So that's annoying that we're not doing an impulse, but it's not surprising. So, I said at the time we could see an aggressive drop down or we could just chop sideways. So let's take a look and see where we are. So that video on Thursday on the 21st was basically back here. We'd found this local top and we were coming into this area, and this is where we were deciding, like, can this push up for a more aggressive, impulsive move, or is it going to come down? And I said that move down, it could be aggressive down to the bottom, it could be choppy, kind of going sideways like this. So we are still obviously stuck in between some sort of scenario like that. Now there is one more scenario I need to mention. This being a diagonal, and this still most likely being the first wave here. That's wave one in either the yellow or the blue path. The blue path is new here, and just something I need to consider. So in this path we have a 1 here and a 2 all the way over here. And what we need to look at is where 3 went, and this went to the 1, 2, 3, 6, just about, which is perfectly fine for this to be a wave 3 in yellow. And so that's sort of my assumption, what we're doing here. But it is possible, because this up here doesn't look clearly like 3 waves, right? Or like 5 for that matter. The first wave is 5 waves up. But typically we see 3 waves in a diagonal. So because it doesn't look like 3, there's a possibility that I have laid out in the blue path that this is going to be A and B of 3, and then C of 3 could end up a little bit higher. So we may not have ended the 3rd wave, is basically what I'm saying. I don't necessarily view this as the most likely outcome, because like I said, we did hit right around that 1, 2, 3, 6, which is completely fine for a 3rd wave. So the most, I guess, bearish scenario here of the 2 bull scenarios is that we maintain within this yellow path, meaning we're already done with 3, and we should see something along these lines in the yellow path that I have laid out, where this is probably A, right? Just like this initial move here was A or W, and then we had an X and a Y, and we basically chopped sideways. I expect to see the same thing here, either A, B, C, or chopping sideways, something like that, until we touch the bottom of the channel. It is always possible, of course, as well, that this is making a more direct route down. That could be the end of 4. So this is what I mean by diagonals are just hard to predict. So there's plenty of different things that could happen here, either in the yellow path or the blue path. So I think really what I'm going to be looking at is just using this for a guideline and an idea of where we need to hold. Right, so in fact, let me change this channel to yellow just so it's even a little bit more clear that is the yellow path there, and that's kind of obnoxiously bright, so let's tone it down. Alright, so yellow channel is if 3 has already ended, which maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, right? I think it's reasonable to assume that it has, but I'm leaving room for this. Basically, if the price goes, instead of topping out in a B wave here, and if it goes like real hard up above the channel, I'll probably lean more towards that being correct, although technically it could actually be the end of the 5th wave too. So, but this is the possibility then. If we had 1 there and 3 up a little higher and then our 2 down here, you know, it looks something potentially like this. And we're going to change these colors to blue because that would be the blue path, right? So there's basically a steeper diagonal that it could potentially be playing around in here. So yellow would mean that we're going to be done with this 5 wave sooner rather than later. We'll get, you know, hopefully a B and a C, and then up for a 5th wave, and that 5th wave will likely form as an ABC up like that. Or do we get a nice big pump here up? You know, it could get us up in the 28, 29K range for that 3rd, and then come down, hold a 4th at the bottom of the blue diagonal instead, and then up 1 more time for 5 in the blue. Either one of these is possible. As of right now, because of how choppy this action is, we really can't be clear on which one. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, they're both bullish paths, right? And so that leads me to, all right, well, we need to consider the bearish path, which I have talked about here. That's in red. Bearish path would be basically this is a W, X, and Y, and then we're expecting a new low from there in the bearish path. Now, if that were going to be the case, I would expect, because we've seen impulses all the way down, I would expect to see a micro impulse, right? I would have expected, which we haven't seen. Let me just put that out right now. This action is not impulsive downwards, not even a little bit. So, you know, that to me says that bearish path is still the least likely outcome. But if we start breaking down below this yellow trend line, it's something we do have to take into consideration. So, you know, I really don't see, I'm trying to like figure out in the micro action here what that bearish path might possibly be. You would have to call this 1 and 2. This right here, this, and then this pump up, that destroys the impulsive potential. If this was going to be an impulse, it was completely legitimate for this to be 1, 2 and a micro 3, but it should have gone down much deeper, much quicker. This pump invalidated that as an impulse, and so that's again why I'm saying the bearish outcome is least likely, because this is not impulsive downwards. So I guess, you know, the best case for the bears right now is that they too are potentially making a diagonal. And where would my 1 and 2 be? This would likely be the end of 3. So let's go like this. That's 1, that's 3, and that's 2. So this is the red bear path. This is obnoxious that we have diagonals on top of diagonals, but this is the only way that I can consider this to be really signaling a bearish move, would be if we get this 1, that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So basically 5 waves down, as shown in red here. smaller. Okay. 5 waves down is shown in red, so we would need to kind of see this just chop till about that trend line and then die. And it would basically break down below that yellow trend line here down to a 5th wave. That would be a pretty strong warning sign from the bears that they are intending to take over. It's not an impulse, so it's less of a warning sign than if it was an impulsive move, but breaking that yellow trend line and doing it in 5 waves would definitely make me consider getting protective, kind of stopping out of some positions, taking some profits, raising cash, that sort of thing, just to be on the safe side, because this could then be a first wave down and then we would get a move back up. So on that bounce, like this would be 1 and 2, on this bounce, that's when I would consider probably getting out of some positions, taking some profits, because we could potentially then be moving into a larger bear move down. All right, so there we have it. I think those are the 3 most logical paths. None of them are impulsive. They're all going to form with corrective 3-wave motions, which makes our job of tracking it very, very difficult. But we'll continue to do so, and one of these scenarios will end up winning, obviously, which will inform our decisions going forward. So if either one of these bear paths plays out and gives us 5 waves up, that's great. We can stay bullish in the long run. If this bearish path ends up playing out, then we need to get protective here. So hopefully that made sense to everybody. If it didn't, certainly make sure you jump into the Trade Like a Whale Discord server. You can ask me questions there. I'm happy to answer them, go over anything there. Hit the subscribe button. That'll help you make sure you get my updates as well. And I will talk to you all in 4 days. I'll do a video this Friday. So we'll see what the rest of the week brings and see if we have any resolution to this at that time. All right, good night, everybody.